Hey there, this is Greg again. I've got a collage project that I'm working on today that I'm kind of moving more into the realm of assemblage, only because I'm going to have some things that are kind of floating in this piece. There's really no objects going on here, but there's a lot of flat cutouts that I want to use. So let me show you what's going on. First of all, I got two really neat frames at a yard sale probably a couple weeks ago. They're in really good shape. They come with a piece of glass. They come with the actual frame itself. This happens to be just cheap old plastic, but I like the way it looks. It's kind of layered a little bit here, as you can tell, and it's got a backing to it that I can put on the back, and then I've got room inside to put a piece of collage. And it's hard to tell, probably looking at this video, but there's actually some room in all of this, so I can put the glass on top. And I've already got kind of a dimensional piece already where some things where I'm going to be allowed to use some things that kind of float. But before I get to that, let me show you some of the elements that I'm using here. Just common old elements that anybody could come up with. I've got a back. Well, let me show you the photo first of all. I've got an old vintage photo. I've got several photos like this that are the original photos, and I really prefer on a lot of these photos not to use the original because, well, I'm just not ready to do any cutting on them yet at this point. So what I do, I take them to a color copy machine at Kinko's, and I make color copies of them. I either enlarge them, I make them a little smaller, keep them the same size, whatever. But I do a color copy, obviously, because I want to retain this nice aged hue to each of these photos. It's going to cost a little bit more, but that's worth it to me. So I've got my vintage photo here of my three ladies. Here's my original, which I'm going to put aside in case I goof this up. I can go back and put another copy here. I know for purists, collage artists who are purists probably would never do this, but I really like this technique. It works for me. Vintage photo. There's a backing on this thing. Let me show you what the backing is, because this is really cool. I've got several of these old menus from a restaurant that closed up a long time ago, and I don't have the actual menu part itself, but I have the cardboard, and it's got some of this really nice paper inside that's glued to the cardboard itself. Well, I've been cutting these old menus apart, and let me find one of them here, and I've been aging them a little bit with my electric sander. Now, I know everybody's got a way of aging their stuff. What I've been doing, I resort to my little Black & Decker mouse sander. And I've got, this thing is really cool. You can remove the sandpaper with the Velcro and put on, different kinds of sandpaper. I have a really fine sandpaper for this. I turn it on and I just do some really gentle sanding, which kind of scrubs down some of that new surface. I can do some nice scrubbing, sanding around the edges, which ages this paper also. I can also go back over this with a really light coat of some alcohol dye if I want to. I didn't want to with this particular piece. But anyway, I did attach my photo to the back of this menu that's been aged a little bit. But I'm not done yet. I've got a few other things here I want to show you. I want to show you some of the other elements also. I've got some little tiny fives in here. The fives have come from some of my vintage money. I got a great vintage money. I don't even know if this is vintage, actually. It might, well, I suppose it's old money from around the world that I've accumulated at one of the flea markets that I go to on the weekend here in the Portland area. The money I'd also take to a copy machine and I make photocopies of it. I don't use the originals, at least I don't yet. The time will probably come when I cut apart my originals, but it's not going to happen yet. So I cut out 3 fives. I wanted the fives in these ladies' hands. The ladies originally were holding some kind of a flower bouquet. I put fives in here just because I like those fives. Put a little circular element. I don't know what these circular pieces were. I don't even know if I can find my bag of them. Yeah, here they are right here. I don't know what these are used for, but I got a nice bag of them that I'm going to pull out every now and then. So my idea was, of course, to modify my collage idea and turn it into something more of an assemblage. When I refer to assemblage, I'm referring to the kind of project where we've got objects or cutouts that are actually floating. There are really no objects here, but there are going to be some floating elements. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my piece of glass, lay it down on top. You could do this with virtually any kind of a frame, as long as you've got the glass, the frame itself, and some kind of a backing in the back. You can work out some method here where you're going to be able to do some layering of your piece. And my next step, I'm going to my old Sally, Dick, and Jane reader. These are old readers from that we used to use back in the 50s, 60s, maybe even into the 70s. For those of you that live in the United States, you would probably recognize these. These are no longer used, however, but there's some great content in here for collage. What I've done, cut out a couple Sally and I'm not sure who this is. This could be Sally and Tim, maybe Sally and Dick. I don't know who this character is, but I was going to lay them down in this fashion anyway. Now it's really hard to see this on a video, but these guys are already floating. They've got a really nice floating effect because the glass is kind of thick and it's raised a little bit off of the photo. So when I glue these down on top, and by the way, I'm going to use a very thin layer of silicone, 100% silicone on the back. I'm going to lay them into place, something like this. I do change my mind on some of these, so it may not look exactly like this when I get done. I'm going to glue them down after, of course, I get my inside collage glued down and that permanently taken care of. And I think the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my X-Lax can. It's an old, it's an old X-Lax can, nicely rusted. What I've done, I've taken this to a copy machine also, enlarged it a little bit because I wanted to use this particular label, and I want the chocolated laxative label also, and I want to be able to put those on my piece. Let me see if I can find that stuff here. So yeah, I do have it. I'm going to float the X-Lax label on top of these ladies. Sorry, I got everything a little bit messed up here, but I'll get it back into place easily. Nothing's really glued down yet. And again, it's kind of hard to see, but it is indeed floating. It really is. And my little half label that also comes from the can, I'm thinking it's going to go underneath the legs of these kids in this fashion right here. And basically, that's it. I've got my collage with floating elements on it. The last thing that I need to do, I need to glue down the sides of this frame, and I want to finish it off a little bit. The edges of this are going to be a little bit tricky. These frames, this plastic and glass and this backing, came with some clips that I put onto the back to kind of hold this together. I don't want to use these clips. My idea is that I'm going to use, let me see if I can find what I'm going to use. I'm going to use some old dictionary pages. So I've got an old dictionary, a really old dictionary out in the garage. I cut some pages from it. I dye them with alcohol, a little alcohol ink. I really like the red alcohol ink, and I use that a lot. I've cut it into strips, and I'm going to put a very thin layer of silicone on the back of this strip. And then I'm going to, see if I can get this into place, I'm going to lay it down in this manner and very carefully kind of score it so that it will begin to form a little aged frame all the way around this piece. I haven't done this exactly in this manner with this kind of a frame yet, so this is fairly. I've done this procedure with some other boxes that I've done, but this is kind of new. But I think it's going to work just fine. I think this is going to fit. It's going to fold, and it's going to hold everything into place. So basically, that's it. This is my collage piece. This is my assemblage piece. This is my piece with floating elements, and nothing very complicated here. It's stuff that you may or may not have around the house, but I've got it, and I'm going to use it. And thanks for joining me for this little project here. I'll get it done, photograph it, and get it onto my video. We'll see ya. Hey, I want to do a quick little follow-up on this piece that I've just finished. Actually, before I do a follow-up here, I want to show you another little thing that may or may not be of interest to you as an artist. I have my own little published book of, well, it's photos of some of my favorite pieces that I've done. You can actually do this. This is done by a vanity online book publishing company called blurb.com. We'll put the address here on the video. But I'm not trying to sell you something necessarily. You can actually go to my little store on Blurb and you can purchase my little paperback book. But what you can really do is you can publish your own photos, your own work on Blurb. And the product is really, really nice. They do a really nice job of publishing the book, printing the book, and then they give you your own little store so that you can market and sell your own item. So, putting that aside for right now, let me show you what I finally did with the my collage assemblage project that I had been working on. I put it into a larger box, as you can see. So I've got another panel right here with glass on top and the collage assemblage piece floating inside. Got another little section up here with an old medicine box in this area, glass over the top. And I've got another section down here with an old vintage photo and a padlock in place. This is a first for me where I used an old colored piece of, well, that's not old, a colored piece of glass. I guess it's old for me because I bought this colored glass several years ago and I've never used it, and I've been pulling it out. I pulled it out to see how it would work in one of these pieces. I really like it. It's very hard to photograph, but in real life it looks really, really nice with the colored glass on it. I've got a few more pieces of the glass. Some of these are too dark. When you put the glass down on the piece, you can't see the work underneath it because the shade of the glass is just too dark. But I've got some lighter colors like this. So this piece is done. Thanks for joining me. I really like this piece again as usual. You can see the back. I need to put some hanging hardware on the back. I've used my vintage paper, dictionary paper, alcohol dye. I've sanded it down, and I'm going to hang this up. We'll see ya. Thanks.